is watching the counters. Now that Spencer Pratt is virtually guaranteed to at least be in the runoff, that's not good enough, but it's something. But now that he's at least guaranteed to be in the runoff, not guaranteed, but he's getting to the guaranteed part, with both of those other knucklehead leftists dropping out of the latest debate. Why? Because they have nothing to say. They do not want to have to answer questions like, should illegals be able to vote? We're going to get into it. Spencer Pratt has a great team. He's very smart politically, obviously, so I'm sure they know this. But they have to start focusing on who is counting the votes and who is watching the counters. Because we'll go into it again. I've worked the polls in LA. Fraud everywhere. Okay, I'm your host, Paul Sarkis. This is The Ordinary American. The show hasn't been going on for that long, maybe about a month and a half or so, I think. And there hasn't been one day where I've thought to myself, there's not a lot to cover. Every day there's like 10 things on my sheet that I just don't get to. And today's no different. I like to check Trump's Truth Social before I go on. Okay, and I do that because he's a wild card. And he does things. He put something out about an hour ago. I'm going to start with this. I wasn't going to. I had to call an audible. I want to play it and then I want to talk about it. Okay, hold on. Here we go.
There are certainly sacrifices that come along with this life.
Our kids are little. We're going to have to move.
There are also...
This is a great video. This shows you the contrast between the perpetual victims that the left are, where they see oppression in everything. You'll see it here, the way Michelle Obama lives one of the most privileged lives you can imagine. And watch the way she looks at it.
So, a lot of good things.
It's expensive to live in the White House.
What a blessing it is to be here.
There were moments when I didn't feel like I got enough attention.
We live in this beautiful, very protected mansion that the American people have gifted us.
Many people don't know. I mean, much is not covered.
Most of our meals are prepared for us. So we don't have to worry as much about cooking.
You're paying for every bit of food that you eat.
There are a lot of things that in some ways make having a baby easier.
How do you raise kids in the White House? It's dangerous.
You don't have to worry about TSA lines when you're the vice president. Air Force Two makes transportation pretty easy.
We had to pay for their travel to be on the plane.
My attitude towards kids,
they're a hassle.
What the hell have we gotten ourselves into? No more kids.
They mess you up.
Then we had a second, then we had a third, and now both of us are just like, what's one more?
Whatever.
Says a lot.
Okay, yeah, it does say a lot. Those are contrasting views of life. I saw in church over the weekend, I'm not going to mention the pastor's name because I don't have permission, but he was, I think, called in last minute to fill in, and he said that he basically used material that he was preparing for a wedding, and at the wedding they decided to use the topic of forgiveness. And the pastor said something. He said everything he said was awesome, but one thing really stuck in my mind. He said, "If you see the world as the world sinning against you, and you can't see that you are a sinner too, forgiveness becomes difficult." Viewers here know we do Forgiveness Friday. I think forgiveness is a critical tool for a good life. And the forgiveness is for us, it's not for the other person. But you can see in that video, Michelle Obama sees the world as sinning her. She is bought in to by the way, the fake, made up manipulation by the left to teach everybody oppressor and oppressed. It's acknowledged from Marx and Lenin that it's made up. We are going to trick people because they don't get jacked up on their own to see the world as oppressor and oppressed. She buys into that. J.D. Vance does not. Gratitude, loves his kids, talks about having a plane. She made that a woe. Living in the White House, she made that terrible. How expensive do you think it would be if you weren't in the White House? Then you'd be paying for all your food. Or maybe not. Maybe she's got a nonprofit that she steals our money from. That's a great video. Shows the different attitudes. I will also mention that J.D. Vance is a believer. People who are believers have an edge on those who are not when it comes to gratitude and forgiveness, because it's a constant theme. Because I get so dark on here, I don't want to be darkness all the time. I wanted to play that. I got a little dark within there. J.D. Vance sees the world as a place of awesomeness and opportunity. I remember when when my daughter was very young, I realized that every time I took her out into the world, what she was going to take in of the world is how I took the world in. Walking her down the street, is my head down and am I just to myself and I don't talk to anybody and I don't say hi? Or is the world full of opportunity? How are you? Good to see you. Nice to see you. Hi. I like that dog. There's a world full of opportunity. So I knew I had to do that. And I practiced from, when she was 1 month old. Okay. I see that in J.D. Vance. He's looking at the world as awesome. And we also acknowledge that they're suffering and it's hard. But you need both. You didn't get that from Michelle. Okay, I just wanted to jump into that. I got to find there it is. Got to find the clock, otherwise I'll go over here. All right. There's a few other things. We're gonna get into the vote situation. Okay, and I want to play. I'm not going to play. I'm gonna pull up here. I just want to, in case some people think, that's crazy. The people who count the votes, they wouldn't mess around. Oh, really? Oh, really? Okay, let's blow this up. The great C3, by the way. I can't get this to blow up. There it is. I highly recommend that account on X. You can see him, find him on The Ord American on X. That's our X account. That's essentially our show notes. Everything we do in some way, generally speaking, is there. If you don't find it, email us. theordinaryamerican@proton.me. Okay, so look at this. Odds of Trump winning these states before counting stopped on election night. Remember Georgia with the burst pipe, and then we got to stop. Up by 8% with 83% in, a 99% chance of winning. Pennsylvania, 99, 97, 90. See where we are? Odds of losing all 4 states, 1 in 11.1 million, as he says, stolen. Okay? The people who count. Was it Stalin who said, basically, I don't care who votes, show me who counts? Spencer Pratt is doing an unbelievable job. Why? Because all he's doing is talking common sense. Go over a couple of quick things we've talked about. That mayor's race is small enough that people can super focus on my day. I walked my daughter or my kids to the park and I saw 25 drug addicts and it sucked right in my face, right in the day. My friend across the street got her house broken into. It's right here in my neighborhood. My school sucks. I got 50 people doing fraud all around me and my taxes are crazy high. I can drive into Van Nuys and see these buildings where there are Bentleys and Maybachs and Porsches. And I can see on the great Nick Shirley's account that that's all hospice people taking my tax dollars. You can see it. The national stuff, the international stuff is harder to see. Okay, he's doing a great job. The other day, as I mentioned, are illegals voting? Is that wrong? Yes. Or he said, should illegal? I think the question was, should illegals vote in elections? He said, no, period. The other two, depends, and then we got to wait and see. Lies. Okay, so both of them are out of the next debate. I don't know what Pratt's going to do yet. He's got to focus on the counters. When I lived in LA, I volunteered for the polls. I got curious. I did it before 2016, but 2016, I was there at the polls. And when you go through the training, you got to do, I think it was like 2 training sessions or something. By the way, it's not really training, it's indoctrination. Here's what they tell you 1,000 times. Turn no one away from the poll when they show up. Raise your hand. Well, what if they're in the wrong spot? Don't turn them away. Have them fill out a provisional ballot. Raise your hand. Well, wouldn't it be better to send them to their place? We can see that on the list where they should be down the street. Get them a provisional ballot. They push these provisional ballots. Why? Provisional ballots they filled out by hand, put it in an envelope, and they went in the black box, which went downtown and got counted later. Who's counting them? I don't know. Who do you think's counting them? Leftist corruptocrats. Who's watching? Title of the show, who's watching the counters? I don't know. Look what's happening in LA. They are desperate. If we think they won't cheat at every step of the way, why wouldn't they? That's a question my daughter always asks when I'll ask her something. She'll say, why wouldn't I? I'll say, hey, do you want some ice cream? Why wouldn't I? Okay. When I say, will they cheat? Why wouldn't they cheat? Of course they're going to cheat. Think about the process. You fill out your ballot right now. You're trying to be good. You want to get LA fixed up. You put on your mail-in ballot, Spencer Pratt. You put it in the box. What happens from the box? Well, you can go look because they list it out. What you'll see, it's just a bunch of people grabbing your ballot. They claim like the person who sees who the voter is doesn't see who they voted for. What does that matter? All that matters is that someone else grabs my ballot and now they have control. And it's more like 8 people in the process have control. And by the way, eventually they open up your ballot and they can see what you voted for. But it doesn't even take that. If they have mail ballots just floating around like we know they do, they can take the ballots out of the ballot box. And if they know that community might potentially be a 50% Spencer Pratt neighborhood, like for example, the Palisades, somebody can take those ballots and just toss them. We've seen tons of reports of that. And then they can replace them with their fake mail-in ballots. Someone's got to be watching this. They will do it. Okay? I want to bring this up because it's come up quite a lot. Kalshi, the prediction market for this race. There it is. I want to zoom in here. Okay, let me see if I can get this to. Okay. Blue is Pratt, green is Bass, red or orange or whatever that is Nithya Raman. Now, these things are not what I would call super legit. You can see from here on January 7th, Spencer Pratt was 98% to win. Why? Because somebody dumped a bunch of money in on that day. These are manipulatable. Is that a word? These are able to be manipulated. Okay? So here's the red. Here's Nithya Raman. I don't know why, but she goes and she's in this, somebody dumped a bunch of money and she was the favorite. She did, as far as I can tell, one serious public appearance on that debate, and she went from like, well, if it doesn't get to 60%, it gets to like 59%. Now she's at what? 13% and falling. That's one sort of major event. I mean, that message is clear. Nobody wants you. Nobody wants what you brought to the table. Now, Bass went up a little bit. That's just people leaving Raman and going into Bass, but you can see the trade-off. The trade-off was from like the 60% range, and now Bass is at like the 33% range. So it's not quite half, but that's a big deal. There is a sea change going on. People are waking up in LA. This is why I cover this on this show, and this is why I say this is such an important fight. This is not a little mayor's race. This is the national fight. It's between America first and America last. Okay. Does Spencer Pratt have the experience? Who cares? What experience? The experience that burned 7,000 homes to the ground? That's what people are saying. We don't care. He understands the problem. He articulates the problem. He tells us what he wants to do. I played a bunch of his clips. I'm not going to play them today. And he's calling things out. When he gets in, but look, what's the bar? As long as he doesn't burn down 8,000 homes in his tenure when he wins, he's to the plus. You can go back to picking these retard leftists. Big, big race. Now, one last thing about this before we move on. June 2nd is essentially the primary. November 3rd, I think it is the runoff. As I said at the beginning, he's virtually guaranteed to be in the runoff. Great, okay? But that's not enough. Why? What did we see between November 2024 and January 25, we have now seen billions, tens, if not hundreds of billions of our tax dollars shoved out the door. Actually, I think it was over 100 billion, shoved out the door to all the nonprofits. Broken record, nonprofits. Stop me if you've heard this before. Nonprofits were involved. What do you think these people are going to do between June 2nd and November 3rd? They're going to be pushing out, stealing, corrupting with reckless abandon. I don't know that LA can afford that. Second, and maybe more important, but that's really important, is he's got to get going. Things got to start to change quickly. Okay, get rid of him. And it needs to be abrupt. 50.1%. And he's in on June 3rd. That's what LA needs. Okay, this is a crazy, in my opinion, important event. And people have to, there's no, don't wait. Okay, now, with that being said, I already mentioned to you the corruption that can happen with those mail-in ballots. So on the one hand, you want to get your ballot in. On the other hand, when you go in on election day, you fill out your ballot, nobody sees it, and you put it in the machine. Now, the machine can be corrupted, as we've seen, but nobody can mess with your ballot. Trade-offs to everything. We got to rely on Pratt to have his people be watching, or maybe the federal government should be watching. I don't know. I'm generally not a fan of the federal government getting involved in pretty much anything if they can avoid it. But these corrupted elections, it's not like we've seen one time in the 50s an election was corrupted. No. It's all the time, every election now. So people have to, I don't know what you do, to be honest. I would probably wait and vote on election day. What's the downside with that? Well, they could still rig the machine, or they could put something in the way on election day. COVID, for example, or some other thing. Who knows what they might do? They are desperate. They do not want to lose this, and they believe that by any means necessary is their mantra. Okay, so we got to all vote. I'm not an LA resident anymore. I should check. I wonder if I'm still on the rolls. We left in 2021. I should check to see. All right, we're going to transition here. We're gonna move to some of the Trump stuff, because there is a lot of good stuff going on. And some of this I try to cover is the sort of the not covered as much stuff. There's a lot of great coverage for other things, the jobs, etc. This is something that does not get as much coverage, but is important. By the way, these guys are kind of like anti-Trump. I don't really love them, but they do have, I shouldn't say I don't love them. The Kobayashi group, or the Kobayashi letter, they're worth it. They put out some good stuff. I have disagreements with them, but they're worth it. Overseas investors are piling into U.S. stocks. Foreign investors now allocate a record 63% of their U.S. financial assets to equities. This percentage has more than doubled since 2008. This also surpasses the 2000 dot-com bubble peak by 10 percentage points. By comparison, the long-term average allocation is 40%. As a result, foreign investors now own a record $21.3 trillion in U.S. stocks and equities, surging 170% since 2020. All right? Why do I think this is important? I think this is important because this is essentially a proxy for what foreigners think of America. So despite the fact that many, if not most of the foreign countries are anti-America in some way, or leftist, or even people like Russia and China, we're going to get to in a second, which we're trying to work with. We also have to acknowledge that they don't love us that much. They want to work with us maybe, but they also wouldn't mind seeing bad things happen. All of that to say, the people who don't like America, where are they putting their money? In America. Why? Because we are still, what's the phrase? We are the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry. Or said a different way, here's how I would say it. Because every other country is going left, my left, every other country is going left. The green scams, the stealing of the money, the endless wars, the petrodollar nonsense, the City of London extracting wealth, all going along with it, neocons, blah, blah, blah. Trump comes in and says, America first, we're going this way. So what happens is that delta, that difference between them and us gets more severe. Now, if the direction we were going was worse than this direction, do we think that more money would be piling in to our equities? Our equities, by the way, means our companies, American companies, or companies that do huge portions of their business in America. So it's a vote on the American economy. Huge numbers of foreign dollars, record numbers, are going into American equities. If they thought that America sucked and was going into a recession and our policies are awful and Trump's the devil, would they be putting money in? No. So believe their actions, not their words. Their words are all nonsense. The US dollar, we went over this a few weeks ago. The US dollar is essentially more popular, not very sort of economic a phrase, but that's the translation, than ever before. Okay? Why? Because that difference between all that leftist nonsense and what Trump is doing, when it comes down to it and somebody says, where do I have to allocate money to make money or to be safer? They're here, they're nowhere over there. Simple. Okay? The Trump plan is working, and even the foreign governments know that and believe it. Okay? Let me just see. Hopefully that was up. Yeah, that was up. Okay. I want to get to a couple of more things. Okay. I'm going to get back because I want to have a couple of minutes of nonstop time to get into Susan Kokinda and the Promethean Action Group, because they do such a great job of tying together the Trump plan with the foreign policy agenda. But I want to get to one thing first. This is a little bit of a public service announcement to all of the crazy lunatic leftists who are hiding in the US government and think that they're the opposition. I'm going to play this clip from John Brennan from the other day, and then we're going to talk about it.
The FBI into political arms of his political operation. What still exists in the system to slow that down?
I think, as Liz mentioned, there's still a legion of professionals in the law enforcement environment, the Department of Justice, as well as the CIA and other places, the ones who are refusing to follow politically motivated prosecutions, those who are refusing to support any type of political activities on the part of the Trump administration that are inconsistent with the authorities, the responsibilities of the intelligence community, law enforcement community, and Department of Justice.
Okay, what is this? Why am I putting this up here? Most people, and there's a good reason to do it that way, will talk about, look, that's the deep state. That's true. He's talking about the deep state, traitors all. I'm going to mention a different angle. This is a public service announcement to all those people. If you've got a family member or a friend who you suspect is one of those people in some agency, the Department of Justice, Department of State, White House, wherever, and you think that they're kind of like that resistance and they're playing fake revolutionary, send them this segment, okay? This is a warning to them. You think John Brennan is your friend. The leftists are never your friend. What he's doing there, that's MK Ultra, that's manipulation. What he's doing there is he's trying to get you to do stuff that's going to help him, but it will hurt you. Why? Because he doesn't care about you. So he's trying to get you to do something in there in your job. The resistance, a revolutionary, resist and do something. I won't follow those unlawful orders. They're not unlawful orders. These guys, Brennan, et cetera, are traitors. And they're finally, hopefully, going to get their comeuppance. What he's doing there is he's trying to trick you. Don't fall for it. If you live in the DC area, probably maybe you have a wife and a kid, or kids plural, don't jeopardize that. These people will not be there for you. They are never there for you. And they constantly are taking people and ruining their lives, convincing them that they're fake revolutionaries. You're not a revolutionary. You live in America. There isn't any revolution. Okay, if there is one, it's called America First. You will be the one that gets caught. He will throw you to the wolves. Try to imagine, try to think out before you do anything stupid. What's it like to be indicted federally? What's that going to cost me in terms of money, my family, the stress, the ridicule? What happens to my kids? What happens to my wife? He wants you to do something for him. You should not do it. He is counting on being able to manipulate you, and that's what he's doing there. It's the same thing that these guys all are doing with trying to sort of soften up and corrupt the jury pool, like Obama. We talked about that last week. Guys, these people will not be there for you. They will not be there. Okay, I wanted to mention that because I see him and I see Obama and all these people, and I was thinking, I think it's that, what was her name, that woman? I think it was Cassie Hutchinson, maybe. She was this one who they convinced somehow to go in front of Congress and say, I heard from a friend of a friend that Trump did something in the presidential limo, and it was awful. And now I think she's in hot water. That's terrible. She didn't see anything. She just got tricked into doing something. Don't get tricked into doing something. In the end, they will only protect themselves. That is the only person that they will protect. I didn't mean to put that back up. They will only protect themselves. Don't sacrifice yourself for them. It is not worth it. And by the way, things already look different. Take a breath. You don't have to like Trump like I like Trump. Don't do anything stupid. That's my guidance for you. All right. Now, looking at the clock, I want to get some time. There she is, with Susan Kakinda. Okay, Promethean Action, which I use them a lot because they are the most clear-headed, in my opinion, group. Do I have them up? No, hold on. They are the most clear-headed group, clear, concise, smart, explaining to us ordinary Americans what's really been going on. Oversimplified, there's the American system and there's the empirical British system. The empirical British system is wealth extraction, keep endless wars going on, conflict. I can extract wealth through fees and financialization of things like insurance premiums on shipping oil, or like the terrorism tax. Peter Navarro says between $5 and $15 per barrel of oil since 1979, when the mullahs took over Iran. Everyone's paying. That's going to the financial world, causes our prices to go up, but it's the grift. Okay, that's the VIG that they are all getting. They want us in constant conflict. Trump wants us in commerce. Trump wants sovereign nations. The City of London, they want us involved in the UN and in NATO and in the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization, these big bodies. Why? Stealing money, mostly ours, and keeping us in a constant stream of conflicts, which keeps our heads over, like the stupid Ukraine stuff, okay? And what Susan and Barbara and the other, Adam and Craig, I think is the other guy's name. And then there's the science guy. I can't remember his name. He's awesome. There's a great one I'm going to play here one of these days about going to Mars. We're going to try to run through a few of these things. I am going to speed her up to not too fast, but 1 1/4. I think that won't distort it too much for you guys, but I want to get through a bunch. Okay, let's just listen to the intro.
President Trump is flying to China this week. But if you want to understand what is really going on, you need to pay very close attention to what Russian President Putin just said. We started working with our major partners and friends, primarily with our friends from the People's Republic of China, India, and some other nations, including the U.S. administration. We simply presented our friends, colleagues, and partners with a picture of what the situation could develop into. Now, Putin was referring to security concerns around Victory Day, but his list of Russia's partners and friends, China, India, and the United States, tells you everything about why the empire had to convene a big anti-Trump war council in Mark Carney's Canada this past weekend, headlined by top Soros and Obama operatives. One of them, Patrick Gaspard, said this.
I think interregnum is the perfect word to use, Senator, because it.
Interregnum, I had to look it up. The leftists, the Democrats, they love the big SAT words. I promise you, we had to look it up too. It means the space between one king and another.
The death of a king is a shocking and traumatic moment, right? The death of the old model here of the world is shocking and traumatic. What do we all need to be doing in our spaces that prepares us for this moment after the interregnum?
Now, that's a man who served as both Obama's political campaign director and as the head of Soros's Open Society Foundation, admitting that the old model of the world is dead, and he and Mark Carney are trying to rally the forces for a hoped-for world after Donald Trump.
Okay. She frames that brilliantly, the interregnum. Okay, they're calling him a king. This is their fancy way of saying, oh, we're not going to call him a king, but we'll call him a king. They think it's insulting. But what she's saying there is they're all trying to wait him out. They're all trying to wait him out because they think that they can get the House and the Senate in the fall and then the White House in 28 and get it back to business as usual, stealing the American people's money and keeping us in endless wars and sending our young men mostly to die. That's what they're saying. So good news is they're recognizing that they probably can't get him out now. Now, that doesn't mean they won't try. They will absolutely try to impeach him if they get the House. But what she mentions here in a second, I think I'll skip it and go to something else, but what she mentions is that those two rulings last week and the week before, the Supreme Court saying no more race involved in congressional districts, and the decision out of Virginia, which said that their Supreme Court in Virginia said that the process the Democrats used to put in their new congressional map, which took congressional seats from 6-5 to 10-1, Democrat, was unconstitutional. Those are two major setbacks for them. Major setbacks. In fact, there's some people who are saying that could be a 40-seat swing. All that means is what we always say, that if you took away the corruption and the theft from the Democrats, there'd be a 20% party. That's it. Because nobody likes their stuff. Okay, I want to move on. Where was I here? I want to figure out. Hold on. Okay, I want to play that.
And here's what she, as the head of the opposition,
had
to say.
And in this past year, Prime Minister Carney has shown the world that there is a path forward, that it's possible to stand up to authoritarianism, but also deliver on the potential of progressive policies, ideas, and values. And in this room, we represent 40 countries, yet we face many of the same challenges in a growing affordability crisis and the rise of right-wing populism and authoritarianism.
So what is this new path forward that they're rallying around? At the summit, Mark Carney's foreign minister called it the Carney Doctrine and described it as principled pragmatism. Translated into plain English, that means keeping all the structures of globalism in place. Free trade, the green agenda, NATO, unchecked immigration, and forever wars, but face the fact that broad layers of the population have had it with the woke and crazy policies of the hard radical left and the economic impact of those globalist policies.
All right. So you see what she's saying? It's so brilliant. She's saying that all those words, all those interregnum and, our space and, popular, blah, 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 blah. We're going to make it the way it used to be. We want to get rid of Trump and go back to the way it used to be. We want our nonprofits. We want to steal your money. That's ordinary American speak for what they're trying to do. Okay? That's it. John Thune is doing that by not passing the Save America Act. He's part of that. Okay? He's part of that. The phone call came from in the House. It's Thune. What Susan Kokinda is trying to get across is that Trump is ushering in a new world. That new world is sovereign nations dealing with each other for what's best for them, America first. You see, I don't know if she has it in here, but Trump talking about his trip to China. Maybe it isn't here, where he says, Xi loves China. Right. We want Xi to love China. That's good for China. And it's easier to deal with somebody that's good for China. They're fighting for China and we're fighting for America. That's something that we can work with. It's when you get into all this other globalist stuff and the theft and the grift and the conflicts. I want to go a little more forward. I forget where it was. I think it was right. Is it there? Yeah, hold on. I want to play that. Here we go.
I think the thing that I think is very important is we're never going to go back to the way the world was. If the old system is no longer working, but we're in this interregnum reorganization, what does it look like when we come through the tunnel? And I would offer that what to me is very fundamentally important is that while ideals that many of us, myself included, were trained on, we have to deliver for our public. Our foreign policies have to serve the economic well-being of our countries. And if people can't see the connection between our engagement abroad and what it does for them back home, if they don't understand that in their bones, we got a problem.
They are admitting they have a problem. Now, look at who isn't.
Now, what she said, what she was saying there is, she's saying we have to lie. That is the Spanberger from Virginia plan. That is the James Carville plan. Don't talk about it. Don't run on it. Just get in and govern that way. Spanberger ran in Virginia as a moderate. Oh, I won't do the congressional redistricting. First thing she did when she got in, she lied. They don't care. They don't care. Power is the only moral imperative. And what she's doing there is she's saying, oh, the people are saying to us that the policies aren't working, so we've got to change. We already heard before, they aren't going to change. They're just going to say they're going to change, lie about it to get power. Trump tells you what he's going to do. He gets in, and then he does it. That's it. Let's see if Spencer Pratt does that. I think that he will. Okay, I want to skip ahead. I think it's right. I think it's right here. Let's see.
A Democrat midterm victory. But as Barbara covered on Wednesday, those hopes took several really big body blows last week, with both the U.S. Supreme Court and the Virginia Supreme Court delivering decisions on redistricting that makes a midterm path significantly harder for the Democrats. Here's a New York Times headline, which captures the state of mind. A private call reveals Democrats' desperation over tossing of map. So the Obama-Soros network now knows they've got to work even harder. And that means trying somehow to win back the working class. Listen to how CAP's Neera Tanden framed it in Toronto.
I hope in your countries, people see what's happening in the United States and again recognize that this championship, this idea that the far right champions the working class is actually a failure.
A failure. That's what they want you to believe. They need you to not see what Trump is actually doing for the working class. That his tariff policies, his anti-monopoly push, and his credit for industry framework are creating a genuine economic revolution. They need people to stay in the world of being losers and victims, rather than seeing the profound changes taking place in our economy right now and what that means for the future.
Okay, I love it. Losers. Okay, that is true. We see that here. You saw, maybe 2 days ago, that the anti-Spencer Pratt commercial, which was really pro-Spencer Pratt, which basically said Spencer Pratt, wants to put the homeless in homes. Spencer Pratt wants to, clean things up. Yeah, right. They think that's bad. Okay, they want all of us thinking things are awful. Listen, I got gas yesterday, $4.19 or $4.29. The most I've paid for gas maybe in my whole life. No, that's not true. When I was in California, I paid more than that, but that's a lot, certainly for here in Tennessee. Okay, it sucks, but there are a lot of great things that are going on. There are political great things going on. The jobs numbers were great. Investments are pouring into America. That is jobs for us. The wages at the lower end particularly are going up. We're getting rid of all of these illegal aliens, which is freeing up our markets so they're not distorted. What does that mean? In the housing markets, we have no idea what the real housing market looks like because there have been so many decades of illegal aliens with our tax dollars jacking the prices up in our neighborhoods. Supply and demand. We're pulling them out. I was showing yesterday, I think it was the great Nick Shirley, his real estate analysis. We are seeing in these markets, the prices of the homes are coming down. The interest rates are important, but there's nothing more important in buying a house than the price of the house. That's the bigger cost. The interest rate, look, if it goes from, I saw today, the interest rates are going up, maybe up as high as 7% now for homes. If it goes down to 4 or 3, is that a big deal? It is. But do the math and see if the house goes down 20%, how things change. Okay? Get rid of the illegals. All these good things are happening. We need more of them. We certainly, by the way, need these bad guys, the Obamas of the world, the traitors of the world, the John Brennans. We need them indicted. We need them tried. And then we need them convicted. Hopefully, you don't know when you go into a court case because there'll be a jury, and that jury can do anything. But we at least need to see that the government is going to hold them accountable. All these good things are going on. All right, that's, again, a little bit long. Apologize. I didn't bring up the Declaration of Independence because by the numbers, people didn't like reading the Declaration of Independence, but I would encourage and humbly sort of suggest that that's a really important segment yesterday. That the Democrats, if you look at the Declaration of Independence, which is a list of grievances, the Democrats are essentially doing those things. They are corrupting the judges. They're telling the judges, do it our way or we'll get you fired. Same thing. All right, that was my pitch for the Declaration. This is the Ordinary American. We're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Rumble and YouTube. On X, we are The Ord American. Email, theordinaryamerican@proton.me. Send us your comments, your questions. This week, I have to adjust Friday and then Monday next week. We'll definitely have content, and I'm not sure how we're going to get it done, but we will get it done. We're definitely going to have content on both of those days for you. We might do the first taped shows on those days. I hate to say that because live is so, I think live is so important, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll be back here tomorrow at 2. I'm rooting for you. Please root for me. And to quote the great Father Mike Schmitz, I'm praying for you. Please pray for me.